Hey folks, Steve here. Welcome to the Ramble. Initially, I had planned for this video to be about Trump's border wall, but then this happened. So I kind of feel like I should talk about that instead. Real quick though, on the border wall, y'all realize we're going to pay for it, right? I mean, now Trump says that, oh, maybe we'll do an import tax, which he was against a couple weeks ago, but now that he has no other choice, he's for it all of a sudden. Strange how that works. But if we tax Mexico's imports to force them to pay for the wall, they're just going to raise the price. The folks in Mexico who are selling stuff here in the United States are just going to raise the price so that the tax doesn't affect them. So ultimately, the cost of the wall will be borne by the people here in this country who buy the Mexican-produced goods that are shipped over here. So we're going to pay for it, not Donald Trump. And that's ultimately not really the point anyway. Trump's campaign promise of we're going to build the wall and Mexico is going to pay for it was clearly meant as a demonstration of his power and his skill at making deals. He told people over and over again during the campaign, and has done so again since the election, that Mexico is going to pay for it. He's going to make them pay for it because Donald Trump is just that good, is just that powerful, is just that much of a deal maker, is just that intimidating. Mexico is going to pay for the wall. And that myth about Trump, I should think, has been utterly shattered. Because Trump said, we're going to make Mexico pay for the wall. And the president of Mexico said, fuck you. We're not going to pay for the wall. And actually, I think literally the former president of Mexico literally said that. The current president of Mexico was a little more diplomatic, but Vicente Fox, the previous president of Mexico, said, you can go fuck yourself. We're not paying for it. So that's not going to happen. So the myth of Trump in that respect, the great deal maker, has been completely broken. There's another myth about Trump, though, that is relatively recent, that he and his cronies in the White House are just now starting to try and sell us. And that is the myth of Trump's great big heart. Oh, he has such a great big heart. He might let some of the non-documented immigrants stay, if they have families, if they're young children with parents or siblings. Oh, he doesn't want to break up families. He has such a big heart. We saw how big his heart was this week when he signed an executive order banning acceptance of refugees from majority Muslim countries. And also included in that executive order was the notion that Christian refugees will be given preference over Muslim refugees. Because, according to Trump, it's just a lot harder for Christian refugees to get into the country. We accept Muslim refugees much more easily than we do Christian refugees, which is, I know this might come as a shock to some of you, a fucking lie. If you read the New York Times article about Trump's executive order, it finds that last year we accepted virtually the same number of Christian refugees and Muslim refugees. And I'm not saying we shouldn't let Christian refugees in, because of course we should let refugees in no matter what their religion. That's the point. It is completely contrary to our secular values, to our image of ourselves as a nation of immigrants, to say, oh, we'll still let some refugees in, not nearly as many, and we'll prefer to let the Christians in instead of the Muslims, and we won't let anybody in from certain countries. That is completely contrary to what we think our values are, to the ideals of the American nation, of what we have always been. We don't have religious tests. We don't hold a person's country of origin against them, and we are a land of immigrants. We welcome people. We welcome people to this country. We welcome people who have nowhere else to go. We say, come here and become a part of our communities, which, by the way, they do. Another lie that anti-immigrant people who now have a great deal of sway in the Trump administration like to say is, oh, these Muslim refugees, they don't assimilate. They're not like us. They don't share our values. They don't fit in here. They only come over here to take over. Muslims have been living in this country, have been making themselves a part of our communities since the United States has existed. There has always been a Muslim population in this country. And the overwhelming majority of Muslims of whatever stripe of Islam they happen to follow, who have come here to live and be among us, have been peaceful, have become a part of our communities, have become valuable members of society, have increased the diversity and strengthened our communities and our nation. It is an absolute lie. It is not only religiously intolerant, it is racist to say that these people, these brown people over there, we can't trust them to come over here and be real Americans. We only want to let in immigrants who will want to come over here and become real Americans, right? We don't want these refugees coming over here. Who knows what they're up to? These people who are fleeing because their country has been torn apart by war. These people who want to come here to have peace and to have a place to live and to have a chance to prosper and to raise their children. What are they up to? Even though, by the way, most of the people who have been victimized and displaced by the Syrian civil war and by the activities of ISIS are Muslims. As I said earlier, if Christians need to come, let's bring them in. I do not want to discriminate against the Christian refugees, but to act as though the Christians have somehow had it worse than Muslims, when the overwhelming majority of people who have been victimized, driven from their homes, and killed by ISIS, by the Syrian civil war, are Muslims. It makes no sense at all. The only explanation for it is just flat out fucking bigotry. And that is the wave that Trump rode into the White House, and that is now the wave that is going to come back crashing down on all of us. This is anti-American. This is wrong. This is morally unacceptable. This new refugee policy. Trump says, he likes to say, and he uses this in the context of his immigration policies. He says, we want to bring people in. We want to be a nation of immigrants, but we want to make sure that we get rid of the bad people and we let the good people in, right? He's not letting anybody in who are coming here as refugees. This idea that he has this big heart and he just wants to let people in, but he wants to make sure we're letting the good people in. The refugees aren't coming anymore. Refugees who have lost their homes, who have lost family members, who have lost their way of life, who want to come here and start over in the land of the free, the home of the brave, supposedly. Nope, sorry, can't help you. Won't help you, actually. We could help very easily. We could easily help a lot more than we are. But nope, can't help you, won't help you. Sorry, Syrian refugees. You're the wrong religion. You're from the wrong country. Can't help you. You know, it's not as if we don't already have arguably the most arduous and intensive refugee screening process in the world. See, that's yet another mischaracterization, yet another lie that people who are against Syrian refugees are using to prevent them from coming into this country. Oh, what if terrorists are sneaking in? What if jihadists are sneaking in using the refugee screening process that takes 18 months to 2 years? If you were a terrorist and you wanted to come into this country, why in the world would you pretend to be a Syrian refugee, knowing that A, you would almost certainly not be successful because of the arduous screening process you would have to undergo, and B, even if you were somehow to make it through, you wouldn't even get here for another 1.5 years or 2 years. It makes no sense to pick that as the way you try to sneak into the country. It doesn't protect us from terrorists. It harms people who need our help. And that seems to be the MO of the Trump administration in general after this first week. It seems to be spend resources and money and compromise our values to combat imaginary fucking problems and do nothing to fight real problems and do nothing to help people both here in this country and abroad who actually need our fucking help. That seems to be the guiding principle for the next 4 years. And all I can say is I hope that we're ready for a fight. I hope that we're ready to resist. I hope that we're ready to write to our members of Congress, to call their offices, to get out in the streets and take part in marches and protests when they come around, when we are able to. There was the Women's March last week that I was so thrilled and proud to be a part of. There's an immigrant march coming up in May, also in Washington, D.C., that I'm going to. If there is a satellite immigrant march in your area coming up at that same time, I would urge you to go to it if you can't make it to D.C. to join us there. There's going to be a scientists march coming up soon. They haven't set a date for it yet, but that's also going to be in Washington, D.C., and hopefully there will be satellite marches around the country and around the world. I would urge you to take part in that. We need to send a message. We are the majority. The March for Life drew a pittance of people compared to the Women's March. They will lie and try to tell you that they have the majority, that they have the numbers, that they have the mandate, that they are doing what is necessary, that they are doing what is right. They will lie to you and try to convince you of things that they have that they don't have. And we cannot allow them to do that. We have to hold their feet to the fire, and we have to get out and make our voices heard, and we have to do everything we can to stop these monstrous, violent, un-American, immoral, evil policies from being enacted, whether it be immigration, whether it be refugees, whether it be robbing women of their reproductive rights, whether it be ignoring the plight of Black Americans, and telling people in Chicago, if you don't get your situation under control, I'm going to send in the feds, whether it's threatening sanctuary cities with taking away federal funding unless they start turning immigrants in to the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, whether it's the absolutely Hitlerian tactic of saying we're going to publish lists of crimes committed by immigrants. That's another thing that just happened last week. I mean, how far are we going to let this go? How far does it have to go before we decide, oh wait, this is actually a terrible idea, we need to do something about this? It's gone too far already. We can't let it go any further. Vigilance and resistance. That's what we need to be doing. Anyway, that's all I have to say for this video. I have a lot more to say, but that's all I have to say right now. Thanks for watching. God damn, now that was a ramble, wasn't it? Anyway, thanks for watching once again, everybody. I hope you got something out of that. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And also, please consider helping me to make more videos like this one by supporting this channel through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives to become a patron of this channel. Thanks again so much for watching, and I will see you next time.